Okay, are we live? We're live! Okay, we're recording, and we're recording! We're playing this one fast and loose today, ladies and gents. Hi! Welcome back to Fuck Me with David Rivas, with me, David Rivas. How the hell are ya? I'm a little late. I'm a little crossed. So, this episode might be quite a ride. Also, I have to apologize because usually I'm a little bit more prepared with like my notes and shit. This episode isn't gonna be as polished as they usually are because I went to an orgy and fucked another guy like instead of prepping like I should have. So I apologize. Like I do know what's in this chapter. I've read through it. It's just gonna be a little bit more loose. A little looser, just like me. Just a little more free range today. But hi, how the hell are ya? And I just gotta say, real quick before we jump into this orgy, it was cute. It's my normal clientele, like DL married, straight, quote unquote, straight guys. But one of them was like bi, and he was married to a woman, and all over his house, like his wife knows that he fucks around with guys, but all over his house was like homoerotic art, and I was like, that's pretty. It's not. I've been with men who have wives and know that they fuck around on the side, but it was interesting to see a guy whose house was so like gay in decoration, and his wife just be like, yeah, Devo work. Like it was cool. It was an interesting dynamic that I haven't quite seen before. But anyway, back to what we're here for. Chapter 3, The Ethical Slut. This is the chapter where they talk about our beliefs on what they believe it means to be an ethical slut, and how they should be, how they are, and how they traverse this world. Speaking of ethical sluts, y'all like this fit today? I think I'm just gonna do like sexy librarian looks for each little episode. Okay. So right off the bat, they talk about. Hold on. Where is this button? Right off the bat, they talk about how sluts they take power in their agency to have sex whenever they want to have sex, but they do so in respect of other people's feelings and in ownership of their own. So that's what makes them an ethical slut, because they move sensitive to others' emotions and sensitive to their own when it comes to the body and pleasure and pain and whatnot. But they kind of gave me like a little like, they kind of like underhanded that for me, because they said in this first part of this chapter, being a slut doesn't mean simply doing whatever you want, whenever you want, with whomever you want. But like, it does. Like, consensually, of course. Like, two parties can do as they wish, however they want, whenever they want, wherever they want, legally speaking, of course. But like, I don't understand how that isn't considered being an ethical slut. Like, if you, so long as all parties are consenting, why can't you just be a slut whenever, however, with whomever you want? Why is there a caveat to that? And then of course they go on to define that like, sex is pretty undefinable. It's, the more you learn about sex and the more you think about it, the more it's the harder it is to define, because sex can not only be the penetrative or like sucking, licking of appendages, whatnot, but something I keep thinking about that this chapter reminded me of was like all the times I've been at a bar, and like there's always the one that spots you from across the bar, and you're like, oof, it's like I don't, you know what I'm talking about, when this stare is so intense that it's not only arousing, it's kind of, it's got this layers to it. Like I think it's sex. It's sex with mostly my clothes on. Oh, hi, Brooks. Alright, Diva, go steal the spotlight, fucking cat. Anywho. I agree that sex is whatever you make it. And there are those instances where you're like, where you're dancing with somebody, and while the movements can be quote unquote sexual, and it might just be like gyrating of hips or whatnot, it it can be like when you're in the club and you're or at a party or whatever, and you're feeling up on somebody and you're like whining like that. Not whining because like I don't well no I guess I do I don't, but you know what I mean, like that it's that vibe, that like all in the hips, rock and roll, like very sexual to take it down there. I think dancing like that can be considered sex as well. uh, so it's just interesting to me that they pointed out that sex is fairly undefined. Girl, cat, get down. Get down. I love you, go. That sex is whatever the user or doer makes of it. I think that's very nice, and I hadn't really thought of it like that. They also talk about how sex and intimacy are essentially very vital to people's concept of self-worth. Sometimes they can be unhealthily important to one's sense of self-worth. Like, oh, I'm I'm not getting fucked all the time, so that must not be, it must mean I'm not attractive, must mean I'm not worth anything, must mean people don't want to feel good with me, or I don't make people feel good. Like, I think it can get dangerous in that respect, but I find it to ring pretty true that so long as I'm having sex and sensual physical pleasure often and in quality ways, like my whole entire, like, I feel good, I feel confident, my entire outlook is much more positive. It definitely does reaffirm my self-worth, knowing that a lot of like randos and a lot of like hot randos and a lot of dads wanna get these cookies, baby, and like it's something I think I fall into a trap of placing too much importance in, and I hope in reading this book that I can start separating that I can feel empowered and sexy through like my track record or the guys I fucked, but also I feel empowered and sexy in the fact that it's my body that's providing pleasure, giving pleasure, and making pleasure. Yeah, word vomit. They also have a quote in here. Bit. Where the hell did it go? Oh, fuck. I'm so sorry. I told you guys. I'm a mess today. I apologize. This is what I get for having sex instead of working on the sex podcast. Whoops. There. I cannot think. I'm so sorry. Oh, yes. Here we go. They talk about how people who are often sexually liberated fall into traps of rationalizing sex, as in seeing it as something either transactionary, so we're like, oh, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, or it's like basing pleasure on like, it doesn't matter who it's from so long as I get it. And pleasure for pleasure's sake is great, and it has its merits, and it is important to indulge in every once in a while, but pleasure for the sake of pleasure, I think is it's a trap, as is any vice or quote unquote bad habit. Like you drink too much, that's not good. You fuck just to fuck too much, that's not good. You're gonna be desensitized, and sex is gonna lose you're gonna lose your direct connection with the intimacy if you're not careful and aren't aware of what you're doing. And oftentimes I feel like people aren't. And people forget that pleasure, like, we need to rationalize sex in order to feel pleasure. Like, oh, I can have sex because of this and because it feels good, but no, like, pleasure for pleasure's sake is a great goal. Like, if you just want to feel good today and fucking go at it all day, like, rub one out or rub one in, whatever the gross terms are, like, you should feel enlightened to and you should feel entitled to, because your pleasure is a worthwhile goal. It's a worthwhile thing to achieve. It's yours. It's your agency. It's your body. By all means, pop off, sis. And then they also talk about how love and sex are the end, not the means. Like, you fall in love, and sex is the outcome of engaging in like a vibe check with somebody else. It's like, if there's both mutual interest there and you're both in situations where you can consent and people are able to consent, then of course sex is the end game. Like, what else would there be? Friendship, of course, but in that moment when you're like, oh, this is the one, so long as you are both willing and able, typically sex is just the like main reason for a one night stand, and that's okay. And immediately after that, they go into like how one night stands are not only very intense, they can be life changing and life enhancing. And I agree with this wholeheartedly. I'm with my raggedy ass man of 6 years because of a one night stand of like, oh, he's hot, I want to fuck him, and lo and behold, I went and I fucked him that night and I haven't left 6 years later. Like, it's one night stands have a legitimacy that I think gets discredited often, mainly because it's a faux pas to be like, oh yeah, I just went out, fucked this guy, never saw him again, that's fine. Like, yes, while that is the traditional one night stand, there are like flings and one night stands that turn into two, or sometimes a weekend, or sometimes a week. Speaking of one night stands and the weekend, there is this phenomenal movie called Weekend, and it's all about like this American, or it's either an American and a British guy or two English guys, and they hook up somewhere in the UK over a weekend, and they kind of fall in love and have this incredible fling, all from just like a random night of like pumping up. Like, it's one night stands are incredible. They're incredible, whether they're just like orgastic, like orgasmic pleasure, or you get like a movie type experience like Weekend, and sometimes you get songs written about you, and they have their merit, and I think a lot of the times people are quick to discredit that, and I would like to see a shift in our dialogue of sex and bring legitimacy to one night stands. It doesn't matter how long you've known them. If the vibe is right, the vibe is right, and if it's go time, it's go time. You shouldn't feel ashamed for that. Then they include this quote from like a survey Dosey did in 1967, when they found like a flower child, because that was back like a couple years before the Summer of Love, but like big free love hippie movement. One of the femme identifying people that they interviewed said, "We believe it's okay to have sex with anybody you love, and we believe in loving everybody. So it's okay to have sex with anyone and everyone." And I think, hello, like that is completely true, regardless of your gender or the gender of your partners. To engage in sex is okay with anybody of any sort, from anywhere. And we get so mired in these labels of like heterosexual, homosexual, gay, straight, this, that, and the third, poly, bi. Like, we get so mired. Oh shit! I just hit the mic. I'm so sorry. We get so lost in those labels that we forget that sometimes a connection is a connection, and emotions and feelings run deeper than just our base, like, stupid monkey brain understanding of them. Like, they can surprise us, and they can be wants and feelings that we've never known we've had, that might never pop pop up again. Like I've been with plenty of DL married, quote unquote, straight guys that have told me, oh yeah, like I love my wife, but there was this guy, Kenny from Harvard Law, whatever, or like Rutgers Prep, that like they will never forget about, and that's their first love, and ever since then they can't love men. Like, it's love is love, and you are able to love whomever and however you want. And this mic is wilding out. Why is this mic wilding out? Okay, back to the book. Oh, they also talk about in this, they mention a locus of control is needed in exercising your sluthood. I don't know one of the issues I'm finding with a book like this is that they reference so fucking much, and a lot of it I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm uneducated, or maybe it's because I went to school for theater and dance and didn't really spend a lot of time in like philosophy or like quote unquote like thinking classes. But they talk about this locus of control, and I had to look it up, and as far as I understand it, the locus of control is this idea that events and their impact is produced either internally by the self and hard work, or produced externally, God, the powers that be, chance, what have you. And they just talk about, like, that's what the locus of control is, and I was like, what the fuck? I had never heard of that ever in my life, but great, now I know what that is, and now you do, and let's impart this knowledge and move forward. Anyway, they talk about how an ethical slut wields the power and the pleasure they produced willingly. Like, they are actively making the decision to, I'm going to give pleasure, I'm going to receive pleasure, and I'm going to indulge in pleasure. That's all I got from that little brief locus section. And they also go on to talk about how abundance is entirely available. Like, you can be a slut with however many people you want, because there is no finite limit on love, sex, happiness, joy, pleasure, intimacy, connection. They're not finite. They are infinite. They're renewable resources, bitch. Like, sometimes you do have to work to continue to feel them and continue to engage in healthy dynamics and relationships with those concepts. But they're not finite. And I think a lot of the times our society, and they even pointed out, our society brainwashes us into believing that so-and-so only has X amount of love to give. Like, I know growing up I had 2 siblings, and at times it felt like my mom only had so much love for so-and-so today. Like, oh, she's loving real hard on Rachel and Jonah, so I might not get as much love today. But in reality, I was being a fucking asshole, and this poor woman was like, I'm not dealing with this bitch today. Like, she still loved me. I just, maybe my scope and my view of the situation wasn't as accurate as possible, which, for me, that would never happen. I would never do such things. But it's that idea that, like, a mother only has so much love to give to each of her children. And that's, I don't necessarily agree with that. Granted, I'm not a mother. I'm not a parent. Like, I have a cat, and he's sitting over there watching me. Hey, Brooksy. I have a cat, and that's it. But that love is, I'm sure, to compare how I feel about this fucking cat, which I love this cat. I would take a bullet for this cat. I love this cat so much. But to compare that to what a mother feels for somebody that grew inside them and they pushed out of them, like, that is a relationship that I do not begin to understand, and I believe it is so deep and so rich that you feel love for it, and you feel love for that, and feel that connection infinitely. Now, while I believe that, I also believe that the people have, like, energy thresholds. Like, a single mother can only love 3 kids so much in a day, like, after working like a full 9 to 5. So it's not we have convinced ourselves that people can only love you so much, but truly, people are people, and their energy cannot be focused entirely on one thing all the goddamn time. And a lot of my adult life has been, excuse the noise, Brooks is playing with his straw hair. Brooks is my cat. Yes, he has a human name. Anywho, fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say. God damn you, Brooks. God, no, damn it, I forgot what I was gonna say, and it was gonna be smart too. Get into it. Love and concepts like that, they're not finite, they're infinite. And they go on to talk about how that belief is, they deem it as a starvation economy, because they think that they believe that people believe they only have so much love to give, and people only have so much love for them. And then they go on, sorry, I had to reread my notes. They then go on to talk about how, while that starvation economy is, yeah, Brooks, the fucking cat, while that starvation economy is real, or isn't real, and like, there are infinite amounts of love, there are real world limits, like time in a day. You only have 24 hours in a day to devote to every single goddamn thing you have to do. You can't be in love 24 hours a day. Energy, like, if you do not make the time to eat, sleep, or drink water, you're not gonna have energy or time to love, because you're gonna be fucked up, dude. Like, there are real world limitations to love, but I think they're mainly like, they deal more so with the physical, because sometimes you can't always get it up too. Like, sometimes your body's just like, dude, I'm tired. Like, that doesn't mean I love you any less. This cat is wilding out in the cannon. Brooks, why are you wilding? Do not talk back to me, cat. God damn it. They then conclude the chapter with this. Wow, this is a much shorter episode. Kudos to me for winging it. I guess I just didn't go as in depth as I normally do. They go on to talk about how openness and open discussions like this, and openly defining what they believe a slut to be, is wonderful, but they are asking you to challenge them. They're asking you, the reader, to think about, like, do I agree with that? Do I agree that an ethical slut does this, that, and the third, or there are or aren't any real world limitations on pleasure, love, sexual intimacy, whatnot? I don't know if I would classify this as a theory book, but it's definitely, like, enriching my concept of sex, and it's definitely I don't know how to describe it. I don't want to call this, I'm just not sure if this is a theory book, because in my time at university, at college, if you will, the theory books I read were very dense, and they weren't as conversational or as laid back as this, and they didn't really offer up much room or space to challenge. Like, they, like, challenge as, like, casually as this is, be like, no, I disagree, let me go think about it laxly in this way. Like, this book has a certain je ne sais quoi to it that I think is much more laid back, and that's why I hesitate to call it a theory book, but I guess it is. I don't know. It's nice to have a book examining a subject that offers a direct line of communication with me and asks me what I think about it, and really pushes me to figure out what the hell they're talking about. I thought that was really nice. Anywho, that's chapter 3. It was a short little chapter. Thank God. The one chapter I fucked up on in terms of timing, because last week was also a mess. I'm so sorry, my dear listeners. I'm so sorry about last week. And this week, my cock got in the way of my dick got in the way of some of my prep, which normally doesn't happen. I'm so sorry. It's never happened to me before. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was much more relaxed than they usually are. So I apologize. And if you're not tuning in on the YouTubes or the Instagram live, bitch, you are missing out. I look good, bronzed. Not bronzed. I'm not bronzed. I'm tan-ish. But anyways, I'm glowing. Look at this. Look at that titty glow, baby. Also, I have a Mario Badescu drying lotion on a pimple because I'm human just like you. And while I look this perfect on camera, there is texture if you get a little closer. Anywho, thank you guys for tuning in. As always, I'm David Rivas. Thank you for watching Fuck Me and listening to Fuck Me with David Rivas in Fuck Me in the Library. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the name of this. That's the name of this mini episode. If you're a first time listener. Anywho, thanks y'all. I'm gonna go get a little bit more stoned and go make some food. Ooh, I'm hungry. I'm really hungry. Anywho, bye. Beep.